When I picked this basketball up, it was like picking up a good look, Sean. Jerry West, one of the greatest ever played this game.
Some would argue that Jerry West is the greatest basketball player who's ever lived. He's the guy the NBA logo is based off of.
People that could have been the logo.
Right.
Wilt could have been the logo.
You could have been the logo.
I could have been the logo. Oscar. But making Jerry the great master of the game, that wasn't a bad choice, okay? That was a good choice.
But coaching? He felt like a terrible coach.
Anymore. I was done.
Now, in related news tonight, Jerry West has resigned as coach of the Lakers.
Thinking back about that, it served me well. I couldn't be the solver of every problem because I couldn't even solve my own problem.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the documentary about him on Amazon Prime. It's called The Logo. So I grew up with 5 brothers, so sports have always been around in my household. I've been to more basketball games than I can count. But I actually didn't know who Jerry West was. Don't judge me. If you're like me, you kind of follow basketball, but not necessarily hardcore. Here's what you need to know. Jerry West played for the Lakers from the 1960s on to 1974.
But then in 71, 72, we had such a great year. It was a storybook year.
He was one of the best scorers in the NBA.
To go to the finals 9 times, 10 times. I mean, LeBron's been there a lot, other than Russell and maybe some of those guys that played with the Celtics. I mean, nobody's been to the finals that many times.
He was the kind of player where when he walked into a room, people stopped. He was also, I would say, conflicted, challenged. There was tension that he carried, and it all started early. To my surprise, his relationship with his father wasn't that great. He mentions in the documentary that his father was physically abusive and emotionally cold. Basketball was how he escaped.
By myself, because no one liked to play basketball. And I think it was so simple with a ball and a hoop. You didn't need people, but you did need imagination, okay? And so I was the player, I was the coach, I was a referee, I was the best player in the world. I was going to make the last second shot. When I picked this basketball up, it was almost like picking up a good look, Sean.
Here's what I didn't know. He did not want his father at games. He talks about his father being physically abusive at home. And there's also a part in the documentary where he talks about his father doing something where he could never forgive him.
I grew up in a household of 3 boys and 3 girls. I was 5th in line. My father was difficult. He would raise his voice a lot. My sister said this was the ice house we were living in.
After that, he told his father he did not want him at the games.
My life changed. All of a sudden, I wasn't this little kid anymore. Having said that, I would not let my father go to games. I didn't want him to watch me play. The thing that I got the most joy out of was playing and competing. And to think that I wanted to share that with my father, no, I could not erase what had happened in the past.
It just struck me that the man who was supposed to be his biggest fan was someone that he didn't want near the thing that he loved most. And here's a detail that I love. The high school, named East Bank High School that he went to, eventually renamed itself to West Bank High School. I think in his honor.
I went to East Bank High School, and one day and 1 year after that, they changed the name to West Bank. It was such an important feeling.
So the same place where he grew up feeling like he wasn't enough, that place now carries his name. And I think all of this tells you a lot about how he moved through his whole career. He was always performing for something that he couldn't quite name, always chasing something that didn't necessarily have a finish line. I'm clearly not a sports psychologist. I'm just someone who loves watching documentaries and thinks way too hard about them. Let's fast forward. Jerry West retires, legendary player. He's inducted into multiple Hall of Fame, but I think the first one he was inducted to was in 1980 as a player. He becomes the guy that everyone knows as the logo, even though the league only recently had the commissioner officially acknowledge that the logo is based on his image. And like lots of athletes at that level, he transitions into coaching.
Jerry West has stayed close to the game and the team that he loves since retiring in 1974 at the age of 36.
Now, all of a sudden, I was responsible for 11 players, and I thought we had a great chance to win.
He ends up as head coach of the LA Lakers for 3 seasons in the late 70s. On paper, he did fine. They won a lot of games, they made the playoffs every year. But he talks about how it just never felt like a fit. He didn't think he was a good coach, and he actually said it.
Everything you think could happen, down we go. That was extremely difficult.
There's an old saying in the NBA, great players don't make great coaches. And that's very true. Jerry West was not a good coach. He couldn't handle the players making mediocre mistakes.
Jerry felt everybody could improve. If he had something to tell you about how you could improve, he'd let you know.
When I got to the 3rd year, my inability to not only communicate with these players, but to be kind of friendly with them, that was gone. One night in the locker room, I said, I know you don't want me to be your coach. I wouldn't want to play for myself either.
Do you have fun as a coach?
Scott, is probably the most unenjoyable 3 years I've ever had in my life. I simply emotionally was not cut out to be a coach. I just did not like it at all.
The players just weren't necessarily getting it. Not because they weren't talented, but because of the way that Jerry West understood the game. It lived inside of him in a way that he couldn't pull out and just hand to someone else. And I think a lot of us who coach, because I'm also a career coach, kind of struggle with this. You can know something so deeply that you just can't explain it. You just do it. And when you try to teach it, you get frustrated because how do you put into words something that for you is so automatic? There's actually research on this. Apparently, experts in any domain somewhat often make worse teachers than someone who is just 1 or 2 steps below them. And I think that's because beginners can still feel what it's like to not know. It's almost like Jerry West was too good, and for him, that might have cost him in the coaching lane, personally. Now, his career in the front office is a whole different story.
Jerry Buss wanted me to coach a team when he bought it from John Cook. I told him, I'm not doing it. There's no way. So he hired me as a consultant. And from there, things changed. All of a sudden, I'm the general manager. Going from a player to an executive. It was really the start of a whole new life and I guess career. I didn't look at it like that. To me, it was an extension of what I loved. I loved basketball.
To be a great general manager, you obviously have to have this ability to lead great athletes. That's the number one thing. This ability to identify talent, whether that's young players, new players you're adding to your team, coaches, there's so much that goes into it. He sees the puzzle piece of team building better than anybody ever has.
As an executive, what do you think that part for you is that has made you sort of be able to be as successful as you've been?
Very much like a player. Not afraid to make a mistake. I trust my instincts.
Another layer that I couldn't stop thinking about was that Jerry West was married twice. And I believe he has 5 sons. And by his own admission to his older kids, he wasn't great at being a father.
I had a wife and 3 young boys with me.
About Chicago,
Because you're giving your life and your heart and soul to this, there's things that you have to neglect. And it wasn't because I didn't enjoy being a father. It was because my calling in life kept me away, and my crazy desire to win kept me concentrating on that instead of concentrating on my older children.
What I remember most about the 60s and growing up was going to the airport and wishing Dad good luck on the trip. He wasn't around a lot. My earliest reflection was really more about did they win or lose the night before and what his mood was going to be like. If they lost on a Friday night, Saturday morning was not going to be too much fun.
It was all consuming for me. That's all I cared about. The day of the game, no noise in my house. I don't want to hear any noise. None. Quiet. Basically, don't talk to me.
Expected a lot out of us. He ran a tight ship, and it was a little tough.
3 young boys, very awkward period of life to grow up. And today when I'm around, I just see damage that the father wasn't around.
I think it's towards the middle or end of the documentary, he says, the 3 scariest words for him have always been, I love you.
So you never heard your father say, I love you?
Right.
did you
I don't use I love you. I don't know if it's inside of me. I really don't.
We were with a friend one time and they had him look it up in the dictionary. And, you know, Jerry was still,
It's like
he can't put his finger around that.
3 words I'm afraid of. I love you. I'm afraid of those 3 words.
Jerry West was obviously exceptional at basketball.
In competitive sports, it's the most difficult thing that you can do to try to win a championship.
Final celebration belongs here. The champagne is flowing in the locker room of the NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers.
And if you do, can you repeat?
Exceptional at building teams.
Jerry West is synonymous with several organizations now. They've all trended upwards due to his tutelage, due to his tenacity, due to his presence.
And he was also working against a pattern. He didn't fully choose and fully understand.
This is a man who is one of the superstars of the NBA. He's never enjoyed the taste of a championship.
So everybody talks about the shot. All he remembers is the loss.
He couldn't deal with it that well, and it affected him immensely.
I think about how many people are exceptional at one thing, like truly exceptional, but then struggle massively somewhere else. And the assumptions sometimes like there's always something wrong with them. But I don't know, sometimes I wonder if that's just how skills work. The things that make you great don't always transfer. And I don't think that's a character flaw. So, why am I telling you about Jerry West? Honestly, it's because I loved watching the documentary. It was inspiring, it was motivational, and mainly my favorite, it was new information that I didn't have before.
You know, first of all, I wish that had never gotten out that logo. I do, really. I really do. And I've said it more than once. And, you know, it's flattering if that's me, and I know it is me, but it is flattering. And but I don't like to do anything to call attention to myself. That's just not who I am, period.
He would say he doesn't care, but then at the same time he'd hand me a hat that says logo. I'm like, sure you care.
Knowing Jerry the way I know him, I think that there's a part of him that he's very proud that the logo was based after him, but he's not the kind of guy that will go around telling everybody, that's me.
I mean, there's a lot of...
I'm a sports fan, and I love these kinds of stories. And I figured I'd share with you what landed for me, in case it lands for you too. So here's what I took from it. As a coach, I think that there are different ways to coach, clearly, right? But I also think we're evolving into new ways of coaching, especially with social media. One of those ways of coaching is by learning. Sometimes you're really good at something, you don't even remember all of the things that you automatically do to be good at it. It can be genuinely hard to coach from that place. And the truth is, you're not always going to be able to meet people where they are. It depends on what season of life they're in, what part of the journey that they're on, and that's just real. I think one of the best ways to coach is to learn things and then share your learnings openly in real time. And I'm not a traditional coach all the time. I can be, but at my core, I'm a learner who shares. What I'm actually good at, like what I really love, is learning something, making sense of it, and putting it in front of people so they can grab whatever resonates and then run with it and adopt it in their own way. Not trying to get in your head or shape how you think, but showing you what I figured out and then letting you decide if it fits your season and your use case. Jerry West spent some time trying to be something that he wasn't, at least in the coaching lane. And it took real honesty and probably real pain to admit to himself that the thing that made him great didn't make him necessarily a great teacher. And I think you have to try things to figure out what you're good at, what you like, and what you don't like. I think it's just as valuable as knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, maybe even more. If you want to watch the documentary is on Amazon Prime. It's called The Logo. You should check it out, even if you don't follow basketball. It's not necessarily a basketball story. It's really about what happens when you're exceptional at something and the world or life keeps handing you a different job, and what it costs you when you don't push back. I'm Samantha. I learn things. I share them here, and that's the whole show. If this one made you think, share it with someone. See you next time.